There's no good way to start this video. For all sports fans, sports is a distraction from reality, but for most, if not all, Coyotes fans, that was the complete opposite this past week, and especially the past few days. Just want to say thank you all for the love and support on YouTube, Twitter, the fact that, people watched it and were thankful that I kept them up to date on the news. I really appreciate it. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of who needs the love and support, but I appreciate it. Nonetheless, I'm still waiting on transparency, if we even get it, from the league and ownership, which should come Friday morning, Friday afternoon. I'll have videos about how it all went down, my raw thoughts. But for the next, two videos this season recap, the Howl Awards. We need to celebrate this season that ended, and even though, well, we'll just jump right into it. Even though they finished the same place as last season, 27th overall, a lot of great steps forward in individual stats. I mean, this might be one of the best seasons Coyotes fans have witnessed in over a decade, probably since 2012. A lot of great things to be excited about. The players were exceptional. So many milestones. We'll start with the record. 36, 41, and 5. Last season, they had 28 wins. So they had 8 more wins, but still finished 27th in the league. This year, not a lot of teams it wasn't as appetizing to tank. Last year, a lot of teams were bad and tanking for Bedard. This year, teams kind of threw their hat in the wild card race. We saw a photo finish in the Eastern Conference for that last playoff spot. So this year, a lot more competition. The Coyotes, their points percentage increased almost 0.05, I guess, from 0.427 to 0.7%. And then their goals for, the most goals, absolute goals scored in Coyotes history was this season. The most 20 goal scorers in Coyotes franchise history also this season, with 6 different 20 goal scorers for the first time, not first time, but since doing these sorts of videos for me, over 3 goals per game. Their goals for per game, 3.1, good for average in the league at 16th overall. Last season, they're up 2.74. That should have happened. They got so much more talent in their forward core. 3 solid lines, a 4th line that chipped in here or there. A guy like Carcone, who plays 12 minutes a night, getting 20 goals, making $750K. The forward group did their job, and all this goal scoring, the power play as well, the highest power play in Coyotes history as well. We witnessed it this season. All this goal scoring and offensive prowess was done without defensemen. I mean, our leading goal scorer was Sean Durzi, who before the empty net goal last night, the last goal in Mullet Arena history, had 8 goals on his season. That empty netter brought him to 9. So the defense didn't really help out in the offense. It was all the forwards. Goals against, a different story. I think moving forward, I know, hard to think about. Defense, the system needs to get better defensemen. It needs a whole tuning. The PK, maybe that sort of suffered the goalie numbers a bit because the save percentage did go down. But again, with the power play, let's get back to that. We actually had 2 power play units this time. Even though PP number 2 for the last 15, 20 games didn't really do much, because it seemed like Andre Tourigny decided to throw the first unit out there for a minute and a half, and PP2 got the scraps for 30 seconds left. The penalty killing, again, because of that weak defensive core, not really helping out the goaltenders there. I think we had 6 out of our 8 defensemen are bottom pairing, if not 7th defenseman on any other NHL team. I think moving forward this offseason, there is no NHL defenseman signed for the Coyotes. And so Bill Armstrong could just put all his fingerprints in it. If he wants to spend money now, I guess he's got the green light to spend money on a defensive blue line. Great to see on the penalty kill, young guys like Gunther and Cooley be consistent penalty killers. Usually you don't see a lot of skilled young players on the PK, but the fact that they were consistently killing penalties, it bodes well for me and the coaching staff. Andre Tourney wasn't scared. He trusted them, and he made them learn the game on the fly in the NHL, even though the National Hockey League isn't really a developmental league. These young guys, Cooley, Gunther, all the young guys took huge steps forward, and throughout this season you saw them get better and better and better until the very end, where the last 10 games were just magical for young players. For save percentage, a bit of a dip, 21st overall, 894. I believe the average was 898. If you look at Ingram's numbers, I mean, they don't compare to that at all. So Vejmelka's numbers brought that down. We'll talk about goaltending later. I like Ingram. I still trust him. I'll talk about goalies later. I think they flip-flopped in terms of their season trajectories and what happened. Shooting percentage, it's always high. Under Andre Tourney, 11.2%, good for 5th overall in the league. Shots on goal per game, I really wanted this number up, and it wasn't going up for like the first 60 games of the season. And then the last 22 games, they just changed their MO. Let's get pucks on net. Let's be a volume team. And it slowly increased each game to a point where they're not last anymore. They're 27th in the league with 27.72 shots per game, up from 25.8 shots per game. Faceoffs, one of the worst aspects of the Coyotes team is faceoffs. The injury to Barrett Hayden, who pretty much only played 30 games this year, that really hurt. But our centermen like Bukestad, McBain, Cooley, they need to be much better on the faceoffs. I know they hired Blaine Forsythe last offseason to help with power play, and they also said he helps on faceoffs. Maybe focus a bit more on faceoffs, maybe bring in some NHL veterans who are good at faceoffs, or maybe just as a whole team, just faceoffs are bad, just fix it. The game is so much easier when you get puck possession right off the draw. It's so much better being a hockey player when you win a faceoffs. Hits dipped down a little bit, 22.54 hits per game. It's about average in the league. And fights, I'm surprised. I didn't think the fight total would be higher than last season. It's pretty much the same, 31 last year. It was 30. I thought last year, tanking a bottom 6 of just grinders and people who don't score, you would think they would fight more. But this season, O'Brien dropped the gloves a lot, Josh Brown, McBain here and there. There was a Dumba fight, a Zucker fight. The fighting was nice to see. And so we'll see if they keep it up. I like it when the team's hard to play against. It's passionate, and fans love a good fight. So let's get into a top 5 goal scorers and point getters for this season for the Coyotes. The usual suspects in the top 3, and then you got Bukestad and Kerfoot rounding out the top 5. Cooley almost made it. He had 44 points, so just missed it. And again, if Cooley and if Gunther played a full season, he'd be in the top 5. Gunther finished the season with 18 goals, 17 assists, 35 points in about 40-ish games. If you stretch that to a full season, he would have 33 goals, 31 assists, and 64 points, which would be second on the team. But Clayton Keller, start with him, continues to lead the forward group. Played about 78 games, 33 goals, 43 assists, 76 points. A step back from last year. Last year he had 86 points, which was the franchise record. So he got 10 points less. But honestly, I felt the goal scoring was more spread out. The points were more spread out around the forwards. I love that he got 30 goals again. He's turning into a great goal scorer. He's got confidence in his shot. So that's what I like to see from Keller. And overall, I think he was probably the most consistent forward for the Coyotes. And then we go to Nick Schmaltz, career high in points. Like, he turned it around after the trade deadline, Nick Schmaltz did. He was kind of inconsistent the first, 50 games of the season, 55 games. But he honestly turned it around, and maybe now I don't hope they trade him. If Keller and Schmaltz could stick together, build around them, they become like a secondary scoring threat, and then guys like Gunther and Cooley are your primary scoring threat. That's a good a team to bet on to be, competing for a playoff spot. But Schmaltz, 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points. His career high in goals is 23, so he almost achieved that. Michelli played a full season. Last year he didn't. He got injured, so great to see a full 82 games. 17 goals, 40 assists, 57 points. Probably the only Calder finalist from last season that took a step forward and had a great season this year. And I would say he got snubbed last year. He wasn't even a top 4 finalist for Rookie of the Year last year. I believe he was 5th. Guys like Stuart Skinner, Owen Power, Matty Beniers, they all took steps back this season. Maybe not Stuart Skinner. He had a rough start to the year, but Michelli, probably one of the better playmakers in the league. He finally is learning to shoot. He's got some dangles with that crazy dangle he scored in the final game against Edmonton. I believe that was a game winner. Great to see Michelli get 17 goals, career highs for him in goals and points. Bukestad gets over 20 goals. He makes league minimum. Such a great veteran. Love seeing him on the broadcast for that last game. 22 goals, 23 assists, 45 points. And Kerfoot, another unsung hero. You don't really hear his name much, but he got a lot of points. 45 points in 82 games played. Great to see Kerfoot play every game as well. Some players that, I expected more out of. Lawson Krause, he did achieve the 20-goal mark. I got no bad things to say about Krause, but he did have a mid-season slump. Pretty much the whole team did around this area of February and January. He went 28 games mid-season with only getting 7 points. Just expected a little bit more out of him. I think moving forward, he's a great third-line power forward on a championship team, maybe a perfect fourth-line power forward, but he still gets those 20 goals. Maybe moving forward, he's not in the top 6 and just gives you that depth scoring. And Sean Durzi, before last night's empty net goal, he didn't score since game number 41. So he went half a season without scoring. He was supposed to be that offensive defenseman threat, replacing Gostisbehere and Chychrun. Didn't really live up to that. But the way he moved the puck on the power play, facilitated Keller, Schmaltz, and Gunther. He did a pretty good job. Just the goal scoring wasn't enough for me, and hopefully he scores more goals moving forward. Career highs. Obviously, Cooley, a career high as a rookie. Gunther, obviously, another career high. Way much better season in his first 33 games last season in the NHL. Michelli already said goals and points. Carconi, career highs in goals and points. He got over 20 goals. Schmaltz, career high in points. Durzi, career high in points. Ties his career high in goals at 9. And O'Brien, career high in goals and points. If O'Brien, he did score in the last game at Mullet, the first goal of the game. If the Coyotes lost that game with only scoring 1 goal and he had the last goal at Mullet, that would have been tough to swallow. Just kidding. So let's move on. And Josh Doan. Didn't even talk about Josh Doan, and I forgot to write how many points and the amount of games he had. So I'm going off memory here. I will say he got 9 points in 11 games, might be 10 points in 11 games. I know it's around a point per game. Completely rejuvenated this team. I mean, sent so much electricity in that locker room. They were on a 14-game losing streak. They ended it, and then it was like a mixed bag of hockey. Those 2 losses to Chicago, 2 losses to Minnesota after those 14-game losing streak, and then they call up Josh Doan, and the offense just goes on a blitzkrieg pace. Unbelievable debut game, and he rode that. Those 2 goals, one against Edmonton, one against Calgary to end the season. Great snipes. You finally see that skillful shot he has. Josh Doan was a great story this year to really bookend the Coyotes as we know it. So let's go to goalies' career highs for Ingram in wins and goals against average. For Vejmelka, career high in goals against average. What I was trying to say before, Ingram started the season amazing. He was like a Vezina candidate. He should have been at the All-Star game. He was rocking like a 920 save percentage. He was on fire. Vejmelka was the opposite. He struggled after his first 3 games. And then the end of the season, they like swapped. Like the last 15 games, I honestly thought Vejmelka played better than Ingram. Great to see Ingram get the call for the last game of this season. He stood tall against the Oilers. But, moving forward, maybe too many games Vejmelka played. He is the backup. And I think Ingram is the better goalie, has better talent. So if Ingram played more games, maybe a different story in where they finish. Not saying they'd be a playoff team, but they'd finish higher in the standings. For sure, Ingram 23, 21, and 3, a 907 save percentage, a 291 goals against average. Vejmelka 13 wins, 19 losses, and 2 overtime shootout losses. Ingram also tied for the most shutouts in the league at 6. And like I was saying about, a sort of Jekyll and Hyde season for both goalies, the first 15 games of the season, Ingram only had 3 games under 900 save percentage. And then his last 17 games of the season, he had 11 games. 11 out of 17 were below 900 save percentage. And then the reverse for Vejmelka. The first 3 games of the season, he was great, above 900 save percentage. And then the next 9 games, 8 out of those 9 were below 900 save percentage. And then to end the season, the last 8 games of his season, he had 5 of those 8 games above 900. So great end to the season for Vejmelka. Let's go to home and away. Should I move? Can you guys see it? I guess I got to take the microphone here. So home and away, 22 wins at Mullet, 19 losses. And then away, 14 wins, 22 losses, 5 overtime shootout losses. For me, last season, they only had 7 away victories. And this year, they double that with 14. Overall, at the Mullet, 2 seasons at the Mullet, they were 43, 34, and 5. So, Mullet magic last year was more prominent, but we saw so many magical moments, especially like I mentioned, the Josh Stone debut at Mullet. The Coyotes played so much better at home than they did away. And, they got to fix their away game a little bit, but the fact that they doubled their wins from last season, they're moving in the right direction. And then month to month, it was all good except for January and February. That 14-game losing streak just derailed their season. It came to light recently that it was due to the morale of the locker room, due to the Salt Lake City owner, expressing interest in an expansion team. At the time, no one was really talking about it. I think Craig Morgan hinted at it. But after, the past 2 weeks, they said, it really hit us hard. And now when the newest relocation rumors were coming out the past 2 weeks, they said, we've been through this before. Let's do it better. Let's not end on a losing streak. Let's end on a high note, persevere, band together, and just do it for the team and do it for the fans. Also this season, the Stanley Cup Gauntlet. I know it feels like it was ages ago, but they beat Vegas, St. Louis, the Lightning, the Colorado Avalanche, Washington Capitals, all in a row. It was a Stanley Cup Gauntlet, beating all the most recent Stanley Cup winners dating back to 2018, all in succession, all consecutive wins. It was a great time. That was in December, and then, in the new year, they were in a wild card spot, and then it kind of, sort of derailed with the All-Star break, with the rumors, with the new year. So overall, when you take a macro perspective of the season, it was not bad. One of the best seasons we've watched in over a decade. But at the same time, they don't really move the needle in terms of standings. They're going to get a 6th overall draft pick if they don't move up or they don't drop down in the lottery. And so they just get another great asset at 6th overall. and they got a lot to build on, a lot of confidence to move on from, and a lot of young guns, a lot of firepower. They could finally score. This is a team that's threatening offensively, and it's great that it's finally happened, that they could score, and they have snipers, and they're dangerous no matter what line is out, and they can score 4, 5, 6 goals with ease. It's not hard anymore, so that's great as well. Just need to fix the defense system, get some more better defensemen, some veteran defensemen, and stop the bleeding, because that was another little habit was they let in a flurry of goals in succession if they ever got scored on. That's a habit that's carried up from those tanking years. And so I think that's it for the season review. We'll have the Howl Awards very soon. And that's the end of the season, I guess. I'll have all my thoughts in another video, but just want to celebrate. It was a great season comparatively to Coyotes seasons. Obviously, if you compare it to NHL teams, it was just an okay season. But in terms of Coyotes seasons over the past decade, this is one of the better ones, and I'm glad that we got to experience it. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.